So just last weekend, Myktybek Oralbai made a very short notice debut by signing to the UFC and then making a debut at 170 pounds against Uroš Medic. Now the fight was in the Apex, but he didn't fight that fight in front of no crowd. Over in his country of Kyrgyzstan, many people gathered to watch his fight take place on a big screen in a projection monitor in an arena. We have seen that before. Nurullo Aliyev from Tajikistan had a stadium full of people all gathered to watch his fight at 5 a.m. in the morning, I believe, on a massive projector as well. And what happened after that? The UFC noticed and they signed a lot of fighters from Tajikistan, Muhammad Naimov, for example, and we also got Moin Gafarov and a couple more fighters as well. I believe Myktybek Oralbai's UFC debut win will have an effect on fighters from Kyrgyzstan in the fact that I believe that the UFC will have seen this. They will have seen that people from Kyrgyzstan watched his fight and they will sign more fighters from Kyrgyzstan. So in this video, I have gathered, in my opinion, the most UFC ready fighters from Kyrgyzstan that I believe that the UFC could sign right now. And I also believe that the UFC will sign these guys given time. And I think that the first one is the most UFC ready. This guy here is Kyrgyzstan Abisalam Ulu, and he has a record of 20-3. He is a lightweight, incredibly talented fighter, fantastic record, good competition as well. He's been fighting some good guys over at Brave. Brave is a very, very good promotion with a lot of backing, and he's fought and beaten some pretty solid fighters. In fact, he's actually got a fight coming up against the former UFC fighter and Lucas Martins, and if he wins that fight, he is ready for the UFC. Ever since he signed to Brave in 2019, he has fought some very, very good guys. He's got experience a wee while back as well in ACA and ACB, a couple of pretty solid promotions themselves. So I do believe that we are going to see Kyrgyzstan in the UFC at some point soon. I think sooner rather than later. He's 29 years old. Absolutely unbelievable record, and I believe that Myktybek Oralbai has paved the way for him to get signed to the UFC. The next one is going to be Bursamancool Abitalat Ulu, and he's got a record of 15-4, and he's a featherweight. I do believe that he fought for Eagle FC back in the day, and he was meant to fight the champion, Rasul Magomedov, and he lost to Rasul Magomedov recently. I don't think he was his champion. I think that might have been a bit of misinformation from me, but the point is, I think he's pretty UFC ready as well. He did lose recently, which is a little bit of a worry, but I think if you get Bursamancool to win one more fight, maybe two more fights, he's once again gonna have a very, very solid record over some pretty good competition, as you can see here. He's also from Kyrgyzstan, which does help his case into the point of this video. So I do believe that we will very much see a potential for Bursamancool to be in the UFC himself. The next fighter that I believe is UFC ready is a fighter with a lot of experience. This guy has had 29 professional fights. He's won 23 of them, and he's only 25 years old. That's quite impressive if you ask me, and if you do look into it, he's beaten some good guys as well. I mean, he's been good fighting very good competition for a few years now. Even at the start of his career, when he didn't have the best record in the world, he was still taking on some decent competition. He's beaten a good guy that I just recognize his name, Jahangir Jumayev. I recognize him. He beat him in the first round, and then after that, he's gone on a pretty good win streak. He's on a little bit of a finish streak right now over some pretty good fighters. He does have a contract with ACA, which could be difficult because guys on ACA contracts do have the exclusive contracts. But if he wins that fight, and if he is a free agent, or if the UFC are able to pick him up, I think he would be a good guy to pick up. I think Idul Isalingurov is 23-5, a lot of experience, good fighter. I think you could get it done in the UFC as well. Another fighter that I do believe is UFC ready is the fighter called Adalet Nurmatov. He is 12-2. He's got some good wins on his record as well. And more importantly, he's got a lot of finishes. He's got 6 wins by KO, most of those in round number 1. He has fought for one championship in the past, but it was on one of their one Friday night fights. So I don't believe he's got an exclusive contract with one. I could be wrong, but he's beaten some good guys as well. He knocked out Aron Carlon, who is a guy that just nobody likes, to be honest. And then he's gone on a good streak since then. Maybe he's signed with one, maybe he's not, but he's a guy that's on this list as well. A lot of fighters from Kyrgyzstan are signed to one championship, which is why there's not too many in the video. The next one is undefeated, Akbar Abdullayev. He is 10-0, 26 years old. He's a lightweight. He's got a pretty short reach as well for the weight class, only 69 inches. But This guy's got the power, man. He's got 9 wins by KO. Most of those in round number 1. Beaten some good guys as well. I just realized he signed to 1 championship. I'm an idiot. He's on an exclusive contract to 1. But he's still a guy that the UFC could pick up eventually. Let's move on. That was a bad pick from me. That's just my bad. That's just me being bad research. I do apologize. But the next one is Myktybek Oralbai, who's 8-1, but he's only 20 years old. Now, the UFC doesn't really tend to like to sign guys that are this young, but I think give him time, give him a few good wins, and give him time to progress. This guy could be in the UFC. I mean, this guy is younger than me. He was born in 2003. Dude, this guy is more than a year younger than me. That's mad. I mean, I feel like I haven't really achieved anything looking at this fella. But anyway, he does also have a fight for 1 Friday Night Fights. But I do believe that he may not be in a permanent contract, because I have seen guys from 1 Friday Night Fights be signed to the UFC before. But hey, he's beaten some good guys. Recently beat Gusy Murov, Gusy Gusiyunov. Wow, that was a lot. That was his best win. I think he could be on the UFC's path soon. Another fighter that could be is 11-0, Marcel Nurlanbek Ulu. 11-0 record, 26 years old. He's a featherweight. He's young, up and coming. Lots and lots of finishes. That's the one thing that I was most impressed about this fella. And he does more than just MMA. I mean, he's got some boxing fights put in there. He could even be 12-0 if he won this unknown result fight here. He's had some mixed rules fights. He's had some boxing fights. He's done some grappling fights. I mean, this guy knows what he's doing, and he knows how to get it done early. Hasn't really tested himself against some very good guys, which is definitely something to worry about, especially if the UFC was to pick him up right now, because we don't know if he's got good cardio. We don't know if he can deal with adversity against an opponent that's going to give him problems. But he just won by knee bar in 11 seconds. I think he's pretty good. He might need a little bit more experience just against a higher level of competition. Maybe Dana White's Contender Series can provide that, for example. But Marcel Nurlanbek, very good fighter. Definitely a fighter to keep your eye out for. Could be signed to the UFC at some point. Another young guy is Razabali Shadulayev, who is 9-0, a bantamweight, and 23 years old. A young, up-and-coming guy who is older than me, so I do feel a little bit better about myself. And he's got a lot of finishes. In fact, all of his wins are by finish, and he's beaten some good guys. He just fought for UAE Warriors, which is a fantastic promotion. The UFC signs a lot of guys out of UAE Warriors, and he's beaten a couple good guys. He beat a 7-0 opponent, Ji Yong Kang, and then he beat a 12-1 opponent in his last one. So he's fought good guys. He's tested himself against a couple good guys, and he's potentially proved that he would be able to compete at the UFC level. So why not give him a shot soon? Maybe you want to see him fight against a guy that just has a lot of experience, a fighter that does have maybe at least like 15 pro fights or something like that. And if he can get it done, hey, let's move on. I think that we could see this guy in the UFC at some point. A bantamweight, 23 years old, 9-0, 9 finishes, a lot of potential. UFC, sign this guy before 1 championship does, because they will. And the last fighter on this list is Nurtalek Jelenbekov. Once again, just a guy that I think the UFC could look into. I don't know how old this fella is, because he has been doing MMA for not very long, only since 2021. But he's got a lot of finishes. He's got a lot of fights against guys that aren't that great. He lost to a guy that isn't that great, but he does have a win by Siluev stretch, which is just unbelievable. I mean, hey, I wouldn't want to be put in a Siluev stretch, I'll tell you that much. But hey, he hasn't really beaten anyone that great, but he has beaten guys with a lot of experience. Like he took on Bruno Reverso, who has 25 pro fights. He took on this guy here called Oleg, who had 20 pro fights. He's fought guys. He's been the distance as well with a pretty tough guy, which was Oleg. So, he can get it done if he needs to. He's fought good guys. He's fought experienced guys. Could be a guy to keep your eye out for. I mean, he probably didn't get all of these trophies and this belt for no reason. One of them says kickboxing, I believe, in their native language, potentially. I mean, this guy might be quite good. Maybe this guy's like a crazy kickboxer that I'm not familiar with. But hey, he's on the list. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think I'm correct in saying that with Kyrgyzstan being represented in the UFC more now? Obviously, we've got Valentina Shevchenko, but now you got Myktybek Oralbai. Do you think having Myktybek Oralbai make that debut and get that debut win is going to be enough for the UFC to look at him and think, you know what? Hey, let's sign some guys from this country. I mean, people did meme him a little bit, which made him a little bit more popular. He's only 25 himself. I mean, I think Myktybek Oralbai could be a fun fighter to watch. Now, his fight against Uroš Medic wasn't that fun, but he got it done. His fights in LFA are a lot more fun to watch than that. I will tell you that much. They are pretty good fights. But hey, let me know what you think in the comments below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Really, really do appreciate it. I don't know what that was. That little... I don't even know what that was. I'll see you guys in the next one. Catch you guys later.